You want a war? You're gonna get one.
Now get the guns, the drugs, to my generation, I'll take the fall. The saints, across the nation, and it's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the fraud, they're messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it out. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah.
Hey yo, thanks for checking out episode 215 of Reliving the War. It's the 20th of December 1999, so Merry Christmas everyone. And we've got Raw in Houston, Texas, while Nitro's in Baltimore, Maryland. Starrcade 99 just wrapped up, and by God, we need answers. The main event ended with another screw job when Goldberg got put in the sharpshooter, yet Bret Hart seemed confused when Roddy Piper called for the bell. We will find out exactly what happened a bit later on, but the bigger story coming out of Starrcade was the fact that Bret Hart's been seriously injured. Right now, he doesn't know how bad his concussion is, and he's trying to work through it, but we're now in the final weeks of Bret Hart's WCW career. On SmackDown this past week, Hunter and Stephanie officially ushered in the McMahon Helmsley Era, and we begin Raw with Triple H and Stephanie getting all festive. 'Tis the season for giving, and these two are going to give until it hurts. My. It's going to be a very Raw Christmas, know what I'm saying? The Main Street Posse are here acting as butlers as Hunter and Steph order them around. The boys do not deserve such poor treatment, but they're trying to get on Hunter and Stephanie's good side because, no doubt, these two are going to make life difficult for a lot of people tonight. Madusa comes to the ring on Nitro along with Nitro girl Spice, and she reminds everyone that she's the first woman in WCW to hold the Cruiserweight title. That's all well and good, Madusa, but it would have been nice if you actually wore the championship for this promo. Kinda helps get the point across, you know? She says a woman can beat a man at any time, and the women of WCW can achieve this with a little TNA. Yep. And then she says she's not actually all about that. You could have fooled me. Buzzkill was walking around in the audience protesting for equal rights. Madusa says she's all for it, and she wanted the equal right to kick Brad's rear end in a one-on-one match. Brad gets in the ring, Madusa attacks him with his sign, and I don't know about you, but I'm getting mixed messages here. It's kinda confusing. Madusa performs a few middle rope dropkicks, and when Brad decides to fight back, he catches the Cruiserweight champ right on the chin with a dropkick. But then Spice gets on the apron, and Mickey J loves the attention. Spice passes Madusa some brass knucks, and I don't know if they actually look like brass knucks, but we'll call them brass knucks anyway. And Brad gets smacked in the face before getting pinned with Madusa's German suplex. What a fantastic way to hook viewers into your TV show. The commentators talk about the Starrcade screw job for a while before running down a few matches we're going to see later on. There's going to be a Starrcade rematch when Jeff Jarrett faces Chris Benoit in a ladder match, which is awesome, seeing as their pay-per-view match was so good. And the Jersey Triad are going to face off in a triple threat match. The powers that be noticed Hugh Morrus walking around backstage, so Vince Russo books Curt Hennig in a match against Morrus later on. Russo wants this match to be Hugh's last ever. By the way, check out Laparca wearing shades over his mask. He's such a badass. Russo wants Roddy Piper brought to his office. Piper's here with his kid tonight. So Creative Control fetched the hot rod, and Russo says Piper's very close to sealing the deal he made with Vince. We have no idea what Russo's talking about here, but for Piper to get this deal done, he has to go out to the ring and take all the heat for what happened in the Starrcade main event. He has to tell everyone that he's sold out, and only then will this mystery agreement he made with Vince Russo get finalized. Piper just breaks. He says he's going to shoot straight with Russo and shoot straight with all the marks. He talks about his rough childhood, sleeping on the streets, how people would approach him in slow-moving cars, and he would never give in to their depravity. He then talks about building the wrestling we all know alongside Hulk Hogan, and he says he's going to be a man tonight when he heads to the ring. He's going to do what he has to do. Some old geezer walked down to the ring during the Hennig vs Morrus match, and it turns out this is Hugh Morris's dad. He looks like he just escaped from hospital, and his mere presence cost Morrus the match. Curt wins with a perfect plex, and I'd like to talk about how bad this storyline looks right out the gate, but I think you guys can reach that conclusion for yourselves. Kevin Nash comes out to talk about the Starrcade 99 main event. He says wrestlers live by a few codes, and one of those codes is up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, start. He says another code is the boys never screw one of the boys, which is funny because your best mate, Mr. Nash, screwed Bret Hart back at Survivor Series 97. Nash says the business consists of two sides, the boys and the office. The boys govern themselves while the office is all about the dollar. The office takes and takes because simply the office doesn't give a shit about the boys.
We got no benefits, we got no medical, no dental, we got no retirement, we got no disability. The son of a bitches don't even pay our social security.
Nash says he doesn't care about Goldberg, but what happened to him last night was wrong. The boys are in trouble if they don't look after themselves, and Bret Hart broke the code. Bret screwed one of the boys. Bret thinks he's the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
Well, buddy boy, you're nothing but a piece of shit.
Bret Hart arrives to the arena after this promo gets wrapped up. Creative Control say Nash doesn't speak for the boys. As a matter of fact, Kevin's the biggest politician in WCW, and Creative Control should maybe shut him up permanently a bit later on. We then go to the ring for another match. Tank Abbott versus Jerry Flynn. My god, they're putting on non-stop bangers tonight, aren't they?
That's going to be a good little piece of business.
Thankfully, Flynn's left his stupid block, but he still couldn't get a victory here. The guys shove the referee down when things get heated, and they have to get broken up by security. I don't care. It's time for Hacksaw Jim Duggan to come out and denounce the United States, and he's also got to rip up Old Glory. He decides not to do it, even though the stipulation stated he had to do it if his team lost their tag team match. So the Revolution give Hacksaw a beatdown, and he gets saved by the Filthy Animals. One of those animals was on a crutch, and we're also missing Eddie Guerrero, so I think the Revolution could have had them here. Anyway, what a waste. Duggan has no honour, man. He said he had denounced the USA, and well, he didn't do it. Roddy Piper then comes out to cut his promo while Bret and Goldberg watch in separate locker rooms backstage, and Piper admits that he sold out to the powers that be. He takes the heat for what happened at the pay-per-view, but he no longer wants anything to do with this, and I quote, phony dog and pony act. WCW's new writers want to write baloney storylines, and Piper says fans don't want to see it, they want to see people fight. Piper apologizes to Goldberg, he lets the fans chant Goldberg's name, and he says the fans are sending a message to Russo right now. And Piper then quits WCW. He won't be a part of Russo's clown show anymore. He said he's not working here anymore. And when he heads up the ramp, he gets greeted by his son, and he also gets greeted by Bill Goldberg. Goldberg says he can't make any sense of all this. He looked up to Piper, and last night he made a bad decision. Roddy sold out, and that's something Bill could never do. Piper apologizes again just before Bret Hart comes out, and Bret says there's no point in these two having this conversation because they're heats with the Office and the powers that be. Bret knows what it's like to get screwed over by the Office, and the Hitman announces that the world title is now vacated. Hart says he can't call himself champion when he didn't beat Goldberg fair and square in the middle of the ring. So the company currently has no champion, and Hart announces he's going to the Office right now to hand the belt back. Bret then meets with Russo, he calls him a piece of shit, and Russo says he did what he did last night because Bret always thought Russo had something to do with what happened in Montreal, and therefore he was trying to prove himself to the Hitman. Bret says Russo didn't do anyone any favours last night. He throws the belt on Russo's desk, and he tells Russo to stick the belt where the sun don't shine because Hart wants nothing to do with it. Russo calls Bret a piece of garbage before booking him in a match. We're going to see Goldberg versus Bret Hart in the main event, and Schiavone announces that the vacated WCW title will be on the line. Well, a very eventful first hour of Monday Nitro, and I'm very invested in what's going to happen next. But let's check in with the WWF and take a look at Raw. Test has a 2-on-1 match against the New Age Outlaws, while Nitro continues on with Ming and Norman Smiley versus Brian Knobbs and Fit Finlay, plus the Maestro versus Evan Karagias. Test got his nose shattered again on SmackDown this past week because the guy just can't catch a break. He can catch a broken nose, I suppose. Hunter and Steph surprised Test by booking him in a handicap match tonight on Raw.
That's going to be a good little piece of business.
And we see the Hardys, Christian and Edge, watching the match backstage. Remember, these boys served as Big Andy's groomsmen during his farce of a wedding. With menstrual products strapped to his face, Test takes a beating from Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. The Outlaws target the injured nose, though Test manages to come back with a big double DDT. BA stops Andy from performing a pump handle powerbomb on Road Dogg, and the match ended when Tess took a jackhammer and Famouser from Billy. No surprises here, Tess continues to get buried. Hunter and Steph thought this was brilliant, but Tess groomsmen thought otherwise, so Stephanie gets a great idea. Tonight, Edge should team up with Matt Hardy while Christian teams up with Jeff Hardy. We're going to have a tag team match with two established teams getting mixed up a bit, and Triple H wishes the boys a Merry Christmas before telling them to leave. Kurt Angle then comes in, and Stephanie seems to like Mr. Angle. Even Hunter noticed this, so Triple H books Kurt in a match against Viscera.
That's gonna be a good little piece of business.
Stephanie wanted to know why her husband booked this match. Clearly Hunter noticed the way his wife was looking at Kurt, so he shows her the way she was acting just a few seconds ago.
Hey, shut up!
Moolah and Mae Young come in a little later on, and because these two pride themselves on still being active at their ripe old age, McMahon and Helmsley booked them in a triple threat tag team match against the Acolytes and the Dudley Boys.
That's gonna be a good little piece of business.
Moolah says Stephanie's a disgrace, which is very rich coming from this old haggard bastard, but anyway, Moolah could get injured in this tag team encounter, so maybe it's worth watching. On Nitro, Smiley and Ming were supposed to be tag team partners, but Ming started beating Norman up. Nothing too surprising here. Norman ran up the entranceway, but he got attacked by Finlay and a complete tit known as Brand Knobs. Eventually, Ming joined in, though he didn't care much about helping his partner out, and instead he attacked everyone. Norman runs away while Fit and Knobs take Ming out, and the boys follow Smiley through the audience and all the way to the restrooms. Remember when Sullivan and Benoit used to fight in the bogs every single week? Anyway, poor Norman gets his head flushed down the toilet and Knobs uses the cubicle door to put Smiley away. Norman gets pinned, though he remains hardcore champion, thank God. Afterwards, we see Roddy Piper leaving his kid with another one of those weird random dudes he'd always bring with him to TV shows. I'm saying nothing. Though Piper also grabs a baseball bat before leaving his locker room. Bret Hart tells Piper to get a hold of himself and to not beat himself up over what happened at Starrcade, but Roddy pays no attention to the hitman and instead he goes to the powers that be's office and he goes mental. Kinda killing the illusion that Vince Russo actually had an office here, but anyway. Piper wrecks the place as his mental state continues to spiral out of control. Next, we've got the Maestro taking on Evan Karagias.
That's gonna be a good little piece of business.
And there's not much to say here, unfortunately. Evan continues to have woman trouble when Symphony got on the apron and the former Cruiserweight champion shoved her away. He then felt guilty, he went to check on her, but this allowed the Maestro to hit Evan from behind and Karagias ended up losing via pinfall. After the match, Chavo Guerrero tried to sell Evan a book, How to Pick Up Chicks, and Karagias attacked Chavo because he's a big sore loser. Christian and Jeff Hardy take on Edge and Matt Hardy next on Raw. On Nitro, it's the Jersey Triad triple threat match. The boys on Raw didn't hold back at all, with neither team being afraid to fight with their usual tag team partners. Though to be fair, Edge stayed on Jeff mostly, while Christian went after Matt. Still, there were brief moments when Christian fought Edge and what have you, and it was actually a good way for these teams to show some respect for each other after the bell. Like, even though they beat the hell out of each other in the match, they could leave the ring together stronger than ever. The match ended with Christian busting Matt's nose open with an unprettier before Jeff puts his brother away with a 450 splash, and the fans cheered for both teams after the final bell. On Nitro, we got a taste of champagne when Kanyon reminded fans that he's now a big Hollywood star. He single-handedly destroyed the Jersey Triad when he beat Bam Bam Bigelow on Nitro last week and when he pinned DDP on Thunder. So it's on to bigger and better things for Champagne Kanyon. The other competitors made their way to the ring. Jay Biggs calls the action from the commentary table, and we get a three-way lockup to start the match. Not sure how this is actually supposed to work, but anyway. DDP and Bam Bam work together to put CCK in his place. Kanyon gets punched in the mouth, he takes a Samoan drop from Bam Bam and a Uranagi from Page. Things get a bit heated between Bigelow and Dallas as expected in these kind of matches, but they get refocused and they continue going after Kanyon. Page wants to end it with a diamond cutter, but Bigelow says no. Chris needs some greetings from Asbury Park. So Dallas lets his old teammate perform his finishing move, and we think that's the match over. Page, however, decides to pull Bigelow in for a diamond cutter, and the crowd pops for Dallas. He even goes to knock the referee out, but he decides against it before walking off. So, Page has taken himself out of the match and this allows Jay Biggs to get involved. He distracts Billy Silverman while one of Chris's women passes him a champagne bottle, and Chris smashes that bad boy over Bigelow's head. Champagne Kanyon wins this triple threat match via pinfall. We see the total package in Elizabeth goofing around in the arena rafters. Lex looks like a bootleg Sting action figure or a guy who cosplays at a wrestling show thinking he looks cool, but he actually looks like a complete nonce. On Raw next, Triple H and Stephanie want to give Jim Ross his Christmas present. On Nitro, it's Creative Control versus Kevin Nash. So Stephanie tells JR to get in the ring, and Jim has no backup tonight, by the way. The King's away filming Man on the Moon, and he's been replaced by Michael Hayes tonight, and Michael's about as useful as a moderator on Reddit. JR was promoting Entertainment Weekly earlier on, and the publication didn't say much about Triple H or Stephanie. Hardly Jim Ross's fault, but okay. Hunter then realizes that this arena needs a little decoration, and so he orders Kevin Dunn to change the entrance stage a little. We then see giant pictures of Triple H and Stephanie on the Sidetrons, and get used to this folks because these images stay on those screens for a pretty long time. Stephanie then reminds Jim about what happened on SmackDown. Jim said on Thursday that Stephanie's a little bitch. He didn't actually say the word though, but he did say it rhymes with witch and it starts with a B. And so on SmackDown, Stephanie smacked JR across the face. Steph says it felt good to smack JR around, but this right here felt better, apparently. And when Triple H goes to break JR's arm once again, Mankind's music plays in the arena. Mick walks down to the ring. He says he's seen enough of Triple H bullying people both in and out of the ring, so Foley tells Hunter to pick on someone his own size. He then tells Hunter that the McMahon Helmsley Era kinda sucks, and he tells Stephanie that she's defaming the good name of Santa Claus with her little Santa hat. Santa walks around saying ho ho ho, but Mick's not sure if Steph's the type of ho Santa was talking about. Foley then laughs as Stephanie holds Triple H back, but Steph then gives Hunter an idea. Helmsley says if Foley wants a fight, he's got one. A boiler room brawl tonight on Raw. Mankind seems happy with this. He really wants to face Triple H inside the boiler room, but Triple H doesn't confirm who Mankind's opponent's going to be for this special match. It could be Hunter, it could be someone else, but one way or another, Foley's in a lot of trouble. The promo ends with Stephanie slapping Mankind, and there's nothing Mick can do about it. He just stands there as Stephanie and Hunter leave the ring. On Nitro, Scott Hall brings Big Nash down to the ring. It's kinda funny how Hall got stripped of the US title due to injury, but his tag team championship was totally fine. I guess WCW don't plan on holding any tag title matches for a few months. Very standard stuff here. Nash starts off strongly and he hands out leapfrog teabags to both Patrick and Gerald. The boys then focus and Kevin finds himself in a bad spot. And don't you think it's funny how Nash is supposed to be a babyface now after what happened at Starrcade? I'm just thinking how one little promo earlier on wiped away months of heel work and the fans are completely buying into it. Although to be fair, I guess anyone would boo Creative Control and cheer for whoever they're facing. In the end, Scott Hall comes in to help out his big buddy. Turns out Scott isn't injured at all, which makes you wonder why he skipped Starrcade last night, but don't worry, it all makes sense at the end of the show. Creative Control get beaten up, Nash and Hall celebrate in the ring. We don't have a winner here because this wasn't an official match. The Angle vs Viscera match is up next on Raw, along with the triple threat tag Hunter booked earlier on. Over on Nitro, it's Jeff Jarrett vs Chris Benoit in a ladder match. Curt's taking a break from the Olympic Dojo tonight to tell these fans to make the 3 eyes a part of their New Year's resolutions. Stephanie tells Hunter that he really didn't need to book this match, and Michael Hayes thinks Stephanie has a twinkle in her eye when she sees Kurt Angle. Very interesting indeed. Someone holds up the giant robot monster Worldwide Alliance sign in the audience, and Kurt realizes that he's actually fighting a giant robot monster disguised as Viscera, and this means he's totally unprepared for the beating he's about to receive. The robot demolishes Kurt with big power moves, the likes we've never seen before inside a WWF ring, but Kurt does fight back with a few drop kicks. To get the monster down, Angle has to go upstairs for a missile dropkick, but Kurt simply can't win this one alone. Steve Blackman was watching the match back home in Pennsylvania. He saw the danger Kurt was in, so he sprinted all the way to Texas to stop this robotic freak, and stop him he did. A kendo stick to the head stunned the evil robot, and Kurt won with the Olympic Slam. Make no mistake about it, Blackman doesn't care about Angle, he just wants to destroy anything that poses a threat to this place we call planet Earth. Stephanie gloats a little backstage and Hunter thinks it was she who sent Blackman out, but that, my friends, is simply not true. The triple threat tag started off with Devon calling Moolah and Mae Young a pair of old bats. The Dudleys then got in the ring where they punched the elderly right in their respective jaws, and Devon tried to break Moolah's arm, which I was seriously happy to see. The Acolytes then ran down in an effort to try and turn this mess into a somewhat competitive wrestling match, but things got dopey again when Bradshaw held Bubba in place so the old bots could get in a few punches. Bubba breaks free, he punches Moolah in the mouth, fantastic, and the match ends with Mae Young taking the was up headbutt. You can see instant regret on the face of Devon Dudley. After the bell, Mark Henry runs down because the Dudleys were beating up his girlfriend. He takes care of Devon and Bubba before tending to Mae, and the Acolytes can't believe what they're seeing. Mark has no shame at all.
He's an animal!
An animal! An animal!
I'm very happy to see this match getting booked for Nitro. Sure, having a rematch the night after a pay-per-view is kinda stupid, seeing as fans could order the replay, but let's be honest, no one was ordering the replay of Starrcade 99. Have some faith in humanity, people. The US title's up for grabs again. Benoit pulls off an enziguri followed by a drop toe hold. Jarrett finds himself in the Tree of Woe and Chris pulls off a dropkick, though he misses his second attempt. Jeff slaps Benoit's nuts off the ring post before retrieving the ladder. Chris stops his opponent from bringing it to the ring. Double J gets brought to ringside where he takes more punishment, but Chris is also unable to bring the ladder inside the ropes. Instead, Chris wedges a chair between the top and middle turnbuckles and Jarrett gets sent in back first. This gets followed up with Chris hitting his opponent across the back with that same chair. Jarrett then takes a back suplex and Jeff leaves the ring before getting sent into the corner for another chair shot. Benoit grabs the ladder, he sets it up in the ring, he goes to climb it and the rungs break. The same happens on the other side of the ladder, only this time Benoit gets a guitar smashed over his head. The ladder was rigged. Jeff has another one waiting for him underneath the ring. Jeff's able to set it up and claim the US title. And yeah, this one was absolutely nothing compared to the Starrcade match, but you can't blame these two either after the bumps they took at the pay-per-view. I did like the idea of gimmicking the ladder though. During a backstage interview, Jeff says they just don't make ladders the way they used to, but he gets interrupted by Curt Hennig. Double J's being summoned to Vince Russo's limo. Mankind's Boiler Room Brawl takes place next on Raw. On Nitro, Sid Vicious takes on The Wall.
That's gonna be a good little piece of business.
Triple H gives Stephanie a present, and inside that present is a Santa Claus toy. He then reveals that Mick Foley's going to face Santa inside the Boiler Room tonight, and Mick isn't too happy about it, seeing as he's a big Santa fanboy. Mankind doesn't think beating up Santa is going to make him look very tough, but he gets forced into the Boiler Room when the Mean Street Posse launch an attack. Mick finds Santa, he tells old Kris Kringle he doesn't want to be on the bad boy list, so he tells Santa he'll put him over and let Santa leave the Boiler Room. Santa can then head back to the North Pole and tell Mrs. Claus and the elves that he beat Mankind. Santa says, "That works for me, brother." He exits the Boiler Room, but Mankind then bumps into three other Santas who we can't identify. Jobber Claus 1, Jobber Claus 2 and Jobber Claus 3. I mean, shouldn't they have put the Mean Street Posse in those outfits? Mankind takes care of these guys, but he then bumps into the new AIDS Santas moments later. Road Dogg and Billy Gunn try to take Mankind out, but Mick's able to get the better of these two. Just as Mankind's about to smash a glass picture frame over Billy Gunn's head though, another Santa shows up and this one doesn't mess around. The glass gets smashed over Mankind's face. Santa then hits Mankind with his sack of hard metal objects, and we quickly learn it's Triple H portraying the final Santa. He leaves the Boiler Room, Triple H defeats Mankind, and when he gets back to his office, he gets a visitor. It's Al Snow. Al demands a match against The Rock, a Brahma bull rope match to be precise, and even though Hunter tells Al to never walk in here and demand anything ever again, he does grant him the match he's looking for. On Nitro, Sid vs. The Wall was a 2.5 minute match that consisted of Big Sid beating his opponent up both inside and outside the ring. A small comeback from The Wall gets stopped with a big chokeslam, but Berlin appears and he distracts Sid for a moment. The Wall then goes for a chokeslam, but Berlin tries to dropkick the big man instead. He ends up hitting his former bodyguard though, and the referee calls for the bell. The Wall wins via disqualification. Berlin takes a powerbomb from Sid. Sid then shakes the Wall's hand, so I assume Berlin's relationship with the Wall is now over, though I assumed this about a month ago. Backstage, Vince Russo tells Jeff Jarrett that tonight's the night. Something big's gonna go down that's even bigger than both Russo and Double J. Jarrett says, "Are you ribbing me?" Russo says no, and Double J is told to go to his locker room and get ready to enjoy himself. Chris Jericho had a match against the Godfather. Maybe it was a way for the WWF to show the hoes wearing Santa hats or something, but Godfather's pre-match promo was longer than the match itself. In the end, Chyna came down to hit the Godfather with a low blow, and again, this causes Jericho a great deal of confusion. Chyna's helping Chris out quite a lot since he won the IC title, so God knows what's going on here. I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. On Nitro, Big Daddy Marinara's finally making an appearance. The Dawn of the Family's here to have a little discussion with Disco Inferno, and Disco's given a choice. Seeing as the family no longer care about the money Disco owes, the Inferno can either join the family and do whatever young Antonio says from now on, or he can spend the rest of his life in a coma. I mean, fuck me, that should be a really easy choice to make, but Disco's like, maybe I need to think about this and get back to you. Up next on Raw, we've got Val Venus versus Hardcore Holly, while over on Nitro, the Varsity Club take on Harlem Heat. Right, this match on Raw is quite unique. Triple H wanted BB to represent Val Venus while Terry represented Hardcore Holly. Every time one of the guys got sent over the top rope, their respective representative had to remove an item of clothing until one woman had to go topless. The man who wins the match will also get an IC title shot on SmackDown. The women don't look too happy as the match gets underway. Both men tumble out of the ring close to the opening bell, so Hunter makes the women remove their dresses. Shoes apparently don't count. Holly then sends Val over the top rope and onto the apron. He slides under the bottom rope and he launches Val into the audience to make sure he wins the match, and that means BB has to remove her bra. Being the heel he is, Hunter covers BB up so only the game can get a look at those giant melons, and the crowd boos as Helmsley talks about how great they are. Hunter says, "Do you see what I see? No, you don't, because you're a bunch of jackasses." So there you go, a match put together so Triple H could see some big fake jugs. On Nitro, Kevin Sullivan said on commentary as Rick Steiner and Mike Rotunda took on Booker T and Stevie Ray. It didn't take long for Sullivan to get involved though, and Harlem Heat struggled to overcome the 3-on-2 advantage. The lights went out, Midnight appeared, but Midnight didn't go for the Varsity Club and instead she squared up to Stevie Ray. This allowed Mike to pin Stevie, and once again Harlem Heat have been defeated. Booker, Stevie and Midnight argue outside the ring, but back inside the ropes, the Varsity Club get attacked by PG-13. The last time we saw these boys was back in the original Nation of Domination, just like old Jay Biggs, though these two did work in ECW in the interim. Wolfie D and JC Ice run away after launching their attack, though the Varsity Club still celebrate after the interference. Next up on Raw, the Brahma Bull match, Al Snow vs The Rock. On Nitro, Daphne runs into the Misfits backstage. Rock cuts a promo before his match and he says he has a choice. He could just walk away and let Al win this match, but he'd prefer to kick Snow's candy ass all over the arena. The crowd cheers as the Great One goes on offense, and on the outside we see the old ring post spot commonly performed in these kind of matches. Rock then performs a clothesline on the outside, and sorry guys, but that picture of Stephanie McMahon super distracting. It's like the face you make when you cheat in Mario Kart. Snow goes into the driver's seat when the match gets back in the ring. He uses the bull rope and cowbell to do some damage. The People's Champ gets choked out and Al tries to flip over the Rock from the top rope, but the move looked terrible. Probably the way it was shot though. Still, Snow tries again, only this time he gets launched off the top rope. Rock follows up with a Samoan drop. The referee then tries to stop Rock's corner attack, but poor Tim White gets a rope shoved up his gooch and he takes a cowbell to the face for good measure. Snow knocks Rock out, he then grabs a steel chair. He swings at the Rock's head, but Rocky dodges it before delivering a DDT. The New Age Outlaws try to interfere, but Rock takes care of them both, and after a spinebuster, the Rock looks for a People's Elbow. Unfortunately, Road Dogg smacks the Rock with a chair across the back, but Rock is able to kick out of Al's cover. So Road Dogg gets in the ring, he takes a Rock bottom. B.A. Billy Gunn then gets inside the ropes and he puts Rock away with a Famouser. Al Snow wins via pinfall. Jim Ross calls this a pretty big upset, and yeah, the fans weren't pleased with the outcome either. The Main Street Posse get way too excited about the match result backstage, and Rodney knocks a vase all over Hunter's crotch. Bad move, my man, bad move. The boys shit themselves and they think Hunter's going to make them fight the Acolytes again, but seeing as it is Christmas and seeing as the boys haven't been too idiotic tonight, Hunter instead books them in a 3-on-2 match. The Posse against two members of Too Cool. On Nitro, Jerry only notices Daphne's tattoos in the backstage area and he says, quote, "Why don't you come back to the lab and let the boys do some real work on you?" Oh Jerry, do you say that to all the girls? Daphne gives Jerry a knee to the balls and a kiss before running off to find her man. So DJ, cue the music.
Half crowbar will travel.
Now that your daddy's gone, you walk around here thinking you are someone. But David Flair, you could have had it all. But the unfortunate truth is you suck big balls.
David, wearing his Nitro Grill jobber shirt, gets in the ring and he beats up Dave Penzer with his gold crowbar. Daphne gets in a few kicks too, so yeah, these two were made for each other, weren't they? David Flair then calls out Vampiro in that typical David Flair manner we all know and love.
Come down here so I can whip your ass!
That's gonna be a good little piece of business.
And Vampiro comes down to basically tell David to get a grip and catch himself on. Vamp has no problems with David, it was all a big misunderstanding, and Vampiro says he's sorry. That's very big of him, isn't it? Vampiro continues on and he says he's sorry David's a psycho freak and his missus is even worse than he is. So yeah, spoke too soon. David whacks Vampiro with his crowbar, Daphne gets in a shot too. Jerry Stud Muffin Only tries to help his friend out, but he too gets taken out by David and Daphne. This is it, folks. This is where we all become full-blown David Flair fans, all thanks to his relationship with Daphne. We always knew David was like 10 times better than his dad anyway.
Have you ever had sex? I haven't felt great. It felt so good when I did it with my penis. A girl let me do it. It literally just happened. Having sex can make a nice man out the meanest. Oh, hey.
The Posse take on Too Cool next on Raw. Buff Bagwell cuts a promo over on Nitro. So Triple H lied and the boys are actually facing Too Cool and Rikishi. But it's okay, it's still 3-on-3, so the boys just need to focus and get the job done. Unfortunately, it doesn't start well. Joey Abs gets squished by Rikishi's rear end and Scott pulls off the worm. He pulls off his move named the worm, he didn't pull his actual worm. Connecticut legend Rodney does a little better as he brings a mean street kick in to Scotty 2 Hotty, and the whole posse starts looking good with some quick tags. Look at this suplex from Joey Abs, an absolute work of art. Unfortunately, Joey misses a top rope elbow drop and Big Quiche gets a hot tag. The match breaks down and poor Joey feels the wrath of Rikishi's ass once again, and our match ends with a Rikishi driver to Rodney. Too Cool celebrate by dancing after the match. I for one will not be dancing because the Posse's losing streak continues for another week, and I'm going to send in my letter of complaint the moment this video gets wrapped up. The Nitro promo's a bit of a weird one, and not only due to Bagwell's choice of clothing tonight. God, if that shirt was any tighter, Buff's eyeballs would be popping out. He does his usual pandering to the audience before Mean Gene asks him about some rumours. Rumours that Buff was with Kimberly Page while DDP was on the bench. Buff doesn't want to answer at first, but he then has a change of heart and he wonders what Mean Gene would do if someone like Kimberly was laid out on his bed when he got back to his hotel room. Buff then says this little doozy right here.
I'm telling you, Buff would put his stuff all over her.
DDP shows up, he attacks Buff from behind, and yeah, Buff was totally asking for this really, wasn't he? The two fight at the guardrail while a lady holds up a Duran Duran sign. Something tells me they won't be showing up tonight. And security have to come down to break the fight up. Did Buff splash his stuff all over Kimberly? I'm sure we'll find out more next week. Actually, we probably won't, knowing this company. Roddy Piper says goodbye to the guys in the locker room. He shakes hands with Big Sid before giving a farewell announcement. He gets choked up when he tells everyone that WCW's writers are going to make these guys phonies. Russo's going to continue to make this a complete clown show. He then tells the guys they're the best athletes in the world. They need to save their money. Don't make the same mistakes Roddy did when it comes to leaving your kids at home only to end up a broken mess after getting done with work. And he also tells the boys to form a union, get pensions worked out, get healthcare, and make WCW take care of them. Jeff Jarrett then walks into his tiny mid-card locker room and he takes a seat in front of a monitor. So it's almost time to see what this big surprise is all about. On Raw, Tori walked into Stephen Hunter's office and Triple H says he wants to bury the hatchet and make things right. He's going to give Kane a shot at the Big Show's WWF title tonight on Raw. And what do you know, it's a Christmas miracle, folks. The Big Show's in a Raw main event as WWF champion. Hunter then adds a stipulation, seeing as it's difficult to find X-Pac a Christmas gift, Tori's going to be up for grabs in this next match. If Kane loses in our main event, then Tori's going to spend the holidays with X-Pac. Tori does seem confident, but I'm not so sure. So it's Kane versus the Big Show in our Raw main event, while Bret Hart faces Bill Goldberg for the vacant WCW Championship. Mr. and Mrs. Helmsley come out to watch this Raw main event from the entrance stage. Show pulls off a Russian leg sweep to start us off, followed by a big elbow drop. And Enziguri then sends the Big Show out of the ring, and Kane follows his opponent out with a diving clothesline. The two fight around the ring. Big Show ends up using a chair. The referee calls for the bell, but Triple H says this is actually an ODQ match. So the match starts up again and the two continue fighting at ringside. Soon afterwards, Stephanie announces that there's no countouts and Hunter says it's also a false count anywhere match. So Kane and Show fight in the audience and Show takes a huge bump when getting sent over the guardrail. The brawl continues outside the ring with a back suplex from the Big Show. He then tries to use the ring steps, but Kane dropkicks him right in his face. The Outlaws then appear beside Triple H and these two approach Tori at ringside, and this distracts Kane long enough for Big Show to get the win. Kane gets powerbombed through a table, the Outlaws then snatch Tori away, and X-Pac's got himself quite the Christmas present from Stephanie and Triple H. Hunter says tonight's been a lot of fun, he wishes everyone in attendance a very Raw Christmas, and JR wonders what on earth's happened to the WWF now that these two are in charge. Right, here we go, Bret Hart vs Goldberg, the winner's the undisputed WCW champion. Like Starrcade, Bret gets shoved to the canvas after a lockup, and do remember that Bret's working hurt here. All this was covered in the pay-per-view video. Goldberg performs a clothesline, Bret tries to fight him from the corner. Bill seems determined tonight though as he chokes Bret out with his boot. Bret's looking wrecked already as he goes to the outside, but he still manages to get in a few strikes. Goldberg fires back by throwing Bret into the guardrail, and things look bleak for Bret as he takes Goldberg's power slam when the action gets back in the ring. Goldberg then applies a knee submission, though Bret makes it to the ropes. When the two get to their feet, Bret tries to soften Bill up for the sharpshooter, but Goldberg gets angry with Bret and he grabs the hitman by the throat. Just like at Starrcade, the referee goes down when a competitor goes for a haymaker, but this time it was Goldberg who knocked the official out. And this allows Bret to hit a low blow, which is kinda odd seeing as Bret's the babyface. Or is he? Bret then applies a figure four. We think he's softening Goldberg up for the sharpshooter still, but then the outsiders show up with baseball bats and Bret covers his face. Just when it looks like Hall and Nash are going to wreck the Hitman, they instead attack Goldberg, and strangely, they give Bret a bat and Bret has no hesitation in hitting Goldberg with it. Bret Hart has turned heel. He's aligned himself with Hall and Nash, and as soon as he tries to cover Goldberg, Roddy Piper runs down in a failed effort to protect Billy Boy. The referee counts to 3, Bret Hart is a 2-time WCW champion, and Jeff Jarrett then comes down to take Piper out with a guitar shot. Double J then grabs a few spray paint cans. It all starts to make sense. Jarrett begins spraying the letters NWO on Goldberg and Piper, and then the NWO soundbite plays in the arena before that old music begins to play. The New World Order is back, and Kevin Nash confirms it when he grabs a microphone.
The band is back together!
If we go back to October when the Outsiders returned, Nash told everyone this was going to happen.
We just want you to know we're getting the band back together.
And then you can go back to all those times the Outsiders actually helped Bret over the past 2 months and it all falls into place. It's actually some good long-term storytelling, but the reason most people didn't catch it was because Nitro's been such a mess, and all the Outsiders interference and what have you felt like every other match on WCW programming. Could it have been done better? Sure, there were definitely a few plot holes, but Bret being the new leader of the NWO was in the works for a whole 2 months, and even though it all turns out pretty crappy in the end, you still gotta give Russo a little credit for trying something that carried on for such a long time. The NWO are now using silver spray paint. This isn't the black and white, this isn't the Wolfpack, this is NWO 2000, and yeah, Jarrett is a bit of a weird choice here, but we'll see how it all plays out over the next few weeks. Tough call this week, but I'm giving it to Nitro. I think Raw went a bit too hard into the McMahon Helmsley stuff, with every single match being centered around this new era the WWF's trying to usher in, while Nitro did a way better job of keeping the show suspenseful. Hindsight's 2020 for sure, and we can all laugh at NWO 2000 nowadays, but back then there was an unpredictability about what was going to happen. Plus, I thought Nash and Piper cut good promos this week, even if Nash's promo was to simply set up a swerve, bro. The in-ring work was better on Raw, but overall I thought Nitro was a bit more entertaining, though I'm sure normal service will resume next week. Raw's on 117 points, Nitro's on 77, and we've got 21 ties on the board. In the TV ratings, Raw dropped down to a 5.8, while Nitro jumped up to a 3.2. Next week we've got the final Monday night head-to-heads of 1999, and that also means it's the final 3-hour episode of Nitro I'll ever have to cover. You guys think I'm going to suffer through the year 2000, but trust me, Nitro getting cut down by 1 hour fills my black heart with so much joy. I honestly couldn't be happier. We'll hear from Bret Hart in NWO 2000, Scotty Steiner makes his return and he delivers an emotional speech about his current health, Non-Sting's back in the arena, and David Flair gets himself a brand new friend. On Raw, Triple H books his WWF title match against The Big Show, a match that he really earned by beating Vince McMahon at Armageddon. The Rock and Sock Connection are forced to fight each other thanks to Hunter and Steph, and the loser of that match will get fired. And Harvey Whippleman takes that old bag of shite, the Fabulous Moolah, out for a date. Can you think of anything worse? Thank you very much for watching Reliving the War. I'll see you all next week, and please take care.